Okay, so I wrote all of my thoughts down on paper throughout the week so I stay on track. So for those of you who don't know me, like he said, my name is Danielle Felton, and Grace Church of Dunedin became my home a little over 2 years ago, just a few months after the church launched. To understand how Christ has transformed my life, you'll need to know a little history about me. I was born and raised in Largo, and I guess you could say for the most part, I lived a typical American life. It was my brother, who's 2 years older, my mom, my dad, and I. I can remember us going on plenty of vacations together, mostly water-related because my dad loved to fish and boat, and camping was a must-do for us. And I can't forget, we'd also go to church on the really churchy holidays with our grandparents, like Easter, because we would never want to miss Resurrection Sunday, and would never miss Jesus' birthday, so we would always be there around Christmas time. And if I was really, really lucky, I would make it for a week of VBS. But that was pretty much the extent of my relationship with the church, just in those church buildings on those holidays. My life of this so-called American dream took a turn in 1995 when I was just 7 years old. I lost my dad to the awful disease we call cancer. This was a lot for a 7-year-old to deal with. I was surely a daddy's girl, and what was I going to do without him? Who was going to walk me down the aisle? Who was going to threaten and scare all my boyfriends away? Who was going to embarrass me in my high school years just to make sure I was still his little girl? But most importantly, to a 7-year-old girl, who was going to launch me 10 feet in the air as it came crashing down into a pool, making an awesome splash. Luckily for me, I had Superwoman for a mom, and quickly became a mama's girl. She was a rock for our family. I can remember her being so incredibly strong during the chaos, and so incredibly comforting to my brother and I, assuring us that everything was going to be okay, and that we would get through this rough time. Sure enough, we did. She worked so hard to provide for my brother and I, and did everything in her power to make sure I was happy. And most of the time, I was pretty happy. But here's the catch. I was happy because I did whatever made me happy. I was pretty selfish. I was also spoiled. I had Superwoman for a mom, and she made sure I had everything I ever needed or ever wanted. Any decision I made was based off selfish motives. What was in it for me? The thoughts I had were self-absorbed. How can I make myself more popular or prettier, or how can I get the newest things? Little did I know, I was in for a pretty big wake-up call. The summer after I graduated high school, my life was forever changed. The morning of July 30th, 2005, seemed to be a normal hot summer day. That is until I learned of the totally unexpected sudden death of my Superwoman, of my mom. My worst nightmare became my new reality. I lost my best friend, I lost my rock, I lost my everything. In a quick blink of an eye, my world was literally turned upside down. I wish I could accurately explain the pain that my heart felt in that moment and the moments to follow, but I don't think they make words to describe the intense heartache I experienced. What now? What was I supposed to do? I felt so hopeless, like I had completely lost purpose to my life. Who was going to guide me? Who was going to comfort me? Who was going to care for me? And most of all, who was going to love me unconditionally? So many questions filled my mind. Yes, I was 18, but I wasn't ready to face this dark, scary, big world alone. I literally felt like I lost everything. The next year of my life is kind of blurry. I attended USF that fall. I took life one day at a time, trying to find purpose, but every day I felt empty. It might also be important to note that death became a very familiar reality to me. 6 weeks after my mom passed away, death stole my grandmother. When I was younger, death stole both of my grandpas. It stole my uncle, it stole my aunt, it stole a childhood friend. As you can see in my life, death was sort of a thief, and I hated it. It was about a year after I lost my mom that I really started searching for purpose, and I started searching in the right places. I got involved with a Bible study and really started wrestling with God. I was angry, I had so many questions, and my life didn't make much sense. It's important to know that today I don't have all the answers to my questions, and I still don't fully understand why I had to endure so much hardship, but there are some things that I do know, and that I did learn that summer, that I'm going to share with you. The 3 major truths I discovered are this. Firstly, I learned quickly that life wasn't about me at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I was uniquely created by a magnificent God who loves me more than any person ever could, even more than Superwoman, even more than my mom. And I was created to love him and to love his people. As we learn in Matthew chapter 22, verses 36 through 39, when asked, "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replies, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." Secondly, I learned that not only does this magnificent God love me, he sent his son to die for me. It is through that cross and resurrection that I have hope and I have life. But not just any hope or any life. I have an everlasting hope and a promise of eternal life. I no longer have to be scared of this thing called death that stole so many people I love. As we see in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 55 to 57, it says, "Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God. He gave us victory through the Lord, our Jesus Christ." And lastly, that summer, it's God who became my rock, my comforter, my guide. He became my everything. The remarkable thing about this truth is that I didn't have to fear losing him. God is steady in an ever-changing, chaotic world. He's sovereign, he's in control, he's ruler, and he's king. This world can often seem so draining and hopeless, but if we hope in the Lord, we will not grow weary. As Isaiah 40, verses 28 through 31 remind us, "Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Needless to say, God did a work in my life that summer, a work that changed me forever. In a seemingly hopeless time in my life, I found hope. I found an everlasting hope. I found abundant joy. I found abounding grace. I found a peace that surpasses all understanding. I found my ultimate purpose, to know and love God and to love his people. God didn't stop there. He continues to work in and through my life even today. I went on to graduate with a bachelor's degree from a small Christian university in Knoxville. The 3 years spent in Tennessee at Johnson was a crucial faith-strengthening time for me. I was in constant community with peers, participating in Bible studies, praying, playing and traveling on the school soccer team, leading devotions, participating in volunteer opportunities with African refugees with inner-city after-school programs and homeless ministries. The Bible was one of my textbooks, and I needed it. I'm not sure if you all are aware, but Christianity can be quite intimidating, pretty overwhelming, and just plain hard. It was the years spent in community that really helped me learn and grow in my faith, through the Word, through friendships, through amazing teachers, through prayer, and even through sports. God did not create us to be alone. He made us for each other. If anyone here knows me, you know that I love to love. Like, seriously, I love to love people. I love a lot of people. And some people think I'm crazy because I love so many people, but as Christians, we're called to be crazy. We hear in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, not to conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind. Francis Chan states it pretty well in his book called Crazy Love. He says, "If life is a river, then pursuing Christ requires swimming upstream. When we stop swimming or actively following him, we automatically begin to be swept downstream. Do you know what it looks like to be floating downstream nice and comfy on a raft? Imagine passing someone vigorously swimming upstream and maybe not even going anywhere at all. What would you think? They look pretty foolish and even crazy. That's what it looks like to be a Christian in this dark world. We look crazy and sometimes foolish to most people. Since I've made the decision to follow Christ, life hasn't been a walk in the park. Life is hard and it's painful, and frankly, sometimes it just doesn't seem fair. I've been faced with illnesses, I've been faced with injuries, I've been faced with losing loved ones, I've been faced with uncertainties and plenty of heartache. The difference is now, even in my darkest days, I have light. I have an everlasting hope. We're reminded in Hebrews chapter 6, verses 19 and 20, we have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain, where our forerunner Jesus has entered on our behalf. He has become the high priest forever. So to finish up my story, I want to share a story with you from the Bible. It's a story they found in Daniel chapter 3 about a fiery furnace. And if you're not familiar with the story, I'll give you a brief overview. It was during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. There were 3 guys named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who worked for the king. Nebuchadnezzar made a huge statue of gold and told all the people when they hear the music, they must bow down and worship the statue. Whoever does not obey will be thrown into a fiery furnace. The 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, worshipped the God Most High, and they refused to worship anyone or anything else. So the music played, and they did not bow to the idol. As you can imagine, this made King Nebuchadnezzar very angry. The king confronted the 3 men about it and asked if it was true. He even gave them another chance, when the music played, to bow to the idol. If they didn't bow, they would be thrown into the fiery furnace. And the king asked them, Then what God will be able to say to you? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, then God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. This made the king even more angry, and they were thrown into a furnace to be heated even hotter than it usually was. The king eventually commanded the guys to come out, so the three men walked out of the furnace without any burns, no hairs on their heads were singed, all their clothes were perfectly fine, and no smell of fire was on them at all. At that moment, King Nebuchadnezzar knew that they had worshipped the real God and not some fake statue. They were willing to die rather than to serve or worship any god except their own God. I'm going to highlight what it says in 18 again. It says, but even if he does not, we want you to know that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. They didn't care if God chose to save them or let them burn. They said, even if God does not save us from the furnace, we will still worship him. That's a faith I want, and that's a faith I strive for. And that's the God we serve. He is the Alpha and Omega. He's the beginning and the end. He's the same through the ages, and his love never changes. We are such an emotional people and base so many of our decisions and attitudes off of that emotion. C.S. Lewis says it pretty well when he says, though our feelings come and go, God's love for us does not. So sometimes people ask me how I have so much joy after all I've been through, or why I love so many people, and this is the answer I have. I love because he first loved me. 1 John 4:19.